As I've mentioned, we're trying to combat a few different problems here. But before we do, let's take a step back and take a look right at the root of the problem. This chart shows the nobility of a particular metal. Noble metals are known for their resistance to oxidation and corrosion, which is why coins are typically minted from noble metals. The most noble metals are towards the top of the chart and really like to hang on to their electrons, and they're known as cathodic. The least noble metal in the series are at the bottom and are known as anodic. If you were to put one of these metals together from the top of the chart together with a metal from the bottom of the chart, you would basically be creating a battery. Current would flow from one to another and would lead to galvanic corrosion. So for example, you use stainless steel screws to mount something to the aluminum deck of your spiffy new sailboat, you'd in essence be creating a bunch of tiny little batteries, corrosion would occur, and a huge headache for yourself down the line. But there's a pretty simple answer to this issue. Namely, don't put two metals together without an insulator of some kind. For example, if you wanted to use those stainless screws, you could first coat them with a PTFE paste like Tefgel or a product like Lanacoat, which would isolate the metals and prevent corrosion. There's also plastic washers, inserts, and all sorts of other products available. If you have an aluminum mast with any stainless steel bolts on it, take a look. Most likely one of these products is on it already, preventing galvanic corrosion. This brings us to our second point. You'll notice that zinc is near the bottom of the chart and also one of the least noble, meaning it will tend to sacrifice itself before most other metals. So if you have any metal bits that are in contact with seawater and potentially stray electrical currents from your boat or anywhere else for that matter, zinc will tend to sacrifice itself first and protect your other more expensive bits like propellers and prop shafts, and in our case, the hull of our sailboat. So on our new boat, we'll be using a much larger number and size of sacrificial zincs than we had on Delos to protect ourselves, and also need to be way more strategic about their placement. This coupled with some electrical practices such as proper grounding, bonding, and isolation from shore power will go a long way to protect us. Aluminum also has one other quality that must be addressed in our design considerations, and it's probably the number one thing that's been asked about in the comments. Won't an aluminum boat be super hot and noisy? As we've seen, when it comes to strength and durability, there's no question that aluminum beats out fiberglass. But what are some of the other differences between the two materials? For one thing, since aluminum hulls can be CAD designed and CNC cut, making one-off design customizations can be cheaper and quicker than needing to modify a hull mold required for a glass boat. Also, since aluminum construction utilizes stiffeners and frames similar to an aircraft, the weight is very competitive with fiberglass or composite construction that depends on thick laminated layers for strength. And in our case, having a light, very strong boat is definitely a plus. On the downside, complex curves and some shapes can be more difficult to form in aluminum, but with the right equipment, smooth, rounded shapes are possible. Ultimately, it's really the strength and durability that drew us to an aluminum boat. We imagine ourselves in high latitudes one day, navigating amongst glaciers or weaving our way through tropical shallow passes with uncharted reefs all around us. In a collision, aluminum will tend to deform, but keep its integrity, while glass tends to break and shatter. It's a pretty amazing peace of mind, knowing that our boat will be as bomb-proof as possible. But nothing is perfect, and neither is aluminum. 5083 is an alloy of aluminum with a bit of magnesium and some other trace elements added. It's incredibly strong, very light, and has excellent corrosion resistance. It also welds pretty easy and is great to work with, which is why 5083 is the best choice of aluminum for marine use. To get branded H321, the alloy goes through a low temperature heat treatment, which greatly increases its hardness and strength even further. 5083 aluminum forms a layer of oxidation on its surface that actually protects the metal from further oxidation, making it ideal for resisting saltwater corrosion, even unpainted and raw. Just leave it alone and it'll take care of itself.